Be prepared. Like you're going for the good fruit, don't I? Pears are good for digestion, you know. Digestion for what's yet to come. Anyway, is this working? Yep, we are live and we are good to go. All right, we'll just wait to see if anyone's gonna bother to come around. I did share links around, but maybe people won't be bothered to watch this, or maybe they will be bothered watching this. We'll find out. It's like the ending of The Thing. We'll just wait a while, see what happens. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. Just sitting back, chilling out with Keith David, if that even is Keith David, just having maybe some alcohol in there, just wait to see what happens. And people are joining in. Nice. All right. Be prepared, everybody, because we are going to be reading into the appendices of Tolkien himself and talking about the rather mixed reception that's been going on with the War of the Rohirrim. Before I go any further, just like to say, I went to HMV the other day, and I managed to get myself a few DVDs. I remember on a community post, I noticed a trailer for this movie. I never got the chance to see it, but I noticed this in the shop, and I thought, ooh, might as well take a look at this. This looks interesting. It's an adaptation of Michael Moore Pugo. Looks pretty good. I'll let you know how I think of it at some point in the future. I heard this was a really good film, and apparently it's an other language film, probably one of the best of this year. So we'll see about that. And check this out. Look at it and weep, boys. It's the Blu-ray disc of Godzilla -1. But curiously enough, once again, just like with the arcade DVD release, this is being released by alltheanime.com. So the live action movies count as anime too now? Or is this just like a distributing company for like products from across the globe? Probably. That's my best educated guess at this point. Anyway, how is everybody today? Hope you're all well. Fine and dandy. So we're going to be talking about the War of the Rohirrim today because I'm noticing that there's been a lot of mixed reception regarding that movie. Namely, that people are rather concerned about the overall quality, given the fact that even though it is being made by Peter Jackson team collaborating with Japanese creators, there's many speculators online like, oh, the dialogue isn't as engaging as it could have been, and others people saying, oh no, I'm getting some underlying undertones of wokeness. I think there's unanimous agreement that at the very least, this is already better than Rings of Power ever will be. I mean, the promotion's certainly doing a better job. It's just that people have grown more used to these tropes that they're getting tired of. There's even like there's people on all sides that just say, look, we just want well-written characters. Just don't make this girl boss character who's poorly written and doesn't have anything to overcome on a personal basis. Give her an actual character with a character arc, I hear people say. There is just one other person on the internet who's saying that, oh no, it's only getting worse. Look, I understand that wokeness has ruined a lot of entertainment, but at the same time, I've seen one person say, oh no, Zelda is becoming the main protagonist of Echoes of Wisdom, therefore it's woke now. No, just because a female there's a female protagonist of a product like that doesn't immediately make it woke. The overall game came out, and no one else is complaining about Echoes of Wisdom being woke. So that guy's clearly just trying to make a narrative just to get some clickbait. So you need to be careful on the internet. You need to be discerning, because I know we need to be aware of wokeness, but lack of authenticity can go both ways, you know? So in regards to War of the Rohirrim, don't go for the all doom and gloom kind of narrative. Don't do that. But neither would I recommend to go for the hype of, this is gonna be like the new Citizen Kane of movies. Oh man, I mean, it's probably not going to be, but it might be. It might be. I did admittedly make comments saying, this is gonna be awesome, but admittedly that was just mainly in regards to it being better than Rings of Power, because believe me, Rings of Power sucks. So this film, War of the Rohirrim, is going to be releasing on the 13th of this month, December. And curiously enough, even though it's a major collaboration with Japan, from what I could research, the Japanese subversion in Japan won't release until the 27th of December. So correct me if I'm wrong, but America and the UK are going to see this film in cinemas before Japan gets the chance to do so. Seems a little bit weird. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's as far as I've been able to research, honestly. So I hear people saying, "Oh no, is this going to completely subvert the actual story itself?" Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing for Lord of the Rings. The War of the Rohirrim is being made by him. Him who goes to the gym to get rather slim. So I already have good hope in this movie, because it's being made by Peter Jackson and his fellow co-writers, as well as people from Japan. And people from Japan have proven themselves to show the utmost integrity in regards to storytelling. That doesn't necessarily mean everything they've made is successful. It just means that the majority of what they make is a really good quality. That's because Japan has a long-held tradition of honoring storytelling and upholding these traditions that work all throughout history. So those passionate storytellers are collaborating with other passionate storytellers from New Zealand, as you can tell. So just from that passion alone, I can already sense that this movie is going to be immediately better than Rings of Power. And my friend Malika is very keen to see this film. My family is keen to see this film, although from what I can see, the film's not going to be released in Inverness. I'm probably going to have to travel a wee bit if I want to see this in cinema. So any fans abroad, I might just see you there, wherever I go. But it might not happen, might not happen. We'll wait and see. But knowing Peter Jackson and the way he does his adaptations is that to fit this cinematic movie experience, he usually takes creative liberties with the books to make the kind of story presentation that would work for cinematic movie, whereas there's some things that would work in a book that would not work well for a film, and some things that work well for a film that would not work well for a book. So, I mean, this film is inevitably going to tick off and frustrate the Tolkien purists. I mean that's inevitable. I'm sorry, that's just inevitable. But for the sake of integrity, I have the actual War of the Rohirrim accounts here. I've done my research. The story of the War of the Rohirrim that this movie is going to adapt is right here in the J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. And it's, if you want to read along, it's in Appendix A, number 2, and it's called The House of EORL. So I managed to bookmark it, and I'd like to read it to you. It's not that long. It's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, hold on a minute. The Kings of the Mark. Yeah, the Kings of the Mark. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7.5 pages long. So I'm going to read it out to you. I think we could just wait a wee while longer for people to show up. Because usually it's more fun when people show up. With that said, there is someone else watching. Whoever that person is, hello. I'll get to reading this soon as I'm done. As soon as I'm done eating this pear, because I like to eat my fruit. I like to bear fruits. We should all be bearing fruits. We should be fruit bearers, fruit eaters, fruit bearers. Hello to someone else who's joining in the live stream. We are about to read, I'm about to read The House of EORL, which the War of the Rohirrim is based on. So, just wrap this up. Okay. I think I've got enough people to take a listen. So, just so my audience can be tuned into how well this movie adapts the source material. Oh, wait, and now everyone's gone. Darn, I was hoping to get people excited. Although, wait, I think one person might still be on here. so I'm getting mixed with. Oh wait, no, that's just me. It's just me. All right. Darn, I was hoping to get people excited to watch this. Maybe people are just coming in and out. Tell you what, I guess I'll just continue eating the pear, and then I guess whenever I feel like it, I'll start reading the actual passage. All right. Hello to whoever's joining the live stream. I'm going to be reading The House of EORL. So, for the sake of people watching this live stream, I'm not going to delay any further. I'm going to read from Tolkien's Appendices, The House of EORL, so that we can get a better idea on what this film is all about and a better feel for the film overall. All right, let's begin. Appendix A to The House of EORL. EORL the Young was lord of the men of Ithilien. That land lay near the sources of Anduin, between the furthest ranges of the Misty Mountains and the northernmost parts of Mirkwood. The Ithilien had moved to those regions in the days of King Eorl II, from lands in the vales of Anduin, between the Carrock and the Gladden, and they were in origin close akin to the Beornings and the men of the Westeves of the forest. The forefathers of EORL claimed descent from kings of Rhovanion, whose realm lay beyond Mirkwood before the invasions of the Wain Riders, and thus they accounted themselves kinsmen of the kings of Gondor, descended from Eldacar. They loved best the plains and delighted in horses and in all feats of horsemanship. But there were many men in the Middle Vales of Anduin in those days, and moreover the shadow of Dol Guldur was lengthening. When, therefore, they heard of the overthrow of the Witch King, they sought more room in the north and drove away the remnants of the people of Angmar on the east side of the mountains. But in the days of Leod, father of Earl, they had grown to be a numerous people and were again somewhat straitened in the land of their home. I can already imagine Eowyn narrating this in the movie. In the 2510th year of the Third Age, a new peril threatened Gondor. A great host of wild men from the northeast swept over Grovanion, and coming down out of the Brown Lands, crossed the Anduin on rafts. At the same time, by chance or design, the orcs, who at that time before their war with the dwarves were in great strength, made a descent from the mountains, right? So this is clearly before the events of the Hobbit, right? The invaders overran Calenardon, and Cirion, steward of Gondor, sent north for help. For there had been long friendship between the men of Anduin's Vale and the people of Gondor. But in the valley of the rivermen were now few and scattered, and slow to render such aid as they could. At last tidings came to Eorl of the need of Gondor, and late though it seemed, he set out with a great host of riders. Thus he came to the battle of the field of Celebrant, for that was the name of the Greenland that lay between Silverlode and Limelight. There the northern army of Gondor was in peril, defeated in the wold and cut off. From the south, it had been driven across the Limelight, and was then suddenly assailed by the Orc host that pressed it towards the Anduin. All hope was lost when, unlooked for, the riders came out of the north and broke upon the rear of the enemy. Then the fortunes of battle were reversed, and the enemy was driven with slaughter over Limelight. Earl led his men in pursuit, and so great was the fear that went before the horsemen of the north that the invaders of the wold were also thrown into panic, and the riders hunted them over the plains of Calenardon. The people of that region had become few since the plague, and most of those that remained had been slaughtered by the savage Easterlings. Cirion, therefore, in reward for his aid, gave Calenardon between Anduin and Eisen of Earl and his people, and they sent north for their wives and children and their goods and settled in that land. They named it anew the Mark of the Riders, and they called themselves the Erlingas. But in Gondor, the land was called Rohan. And its people, the Rohirrim. That is, the horse lords. Man, Tolkien absolutely adored horses, didn't he? I can hardly blame them, man. I mean, horses are really cool. Thus Earl became the first king of the Mark, and he chose for his dwelling a green hill before the feet of the White Mountains that were the south wall of his land. There the Rohirrim lived afterwards as free men under their own kings and laws, but in perpetual alliance with Gondor. Many lords and warriors and many fair and valiant women are named in the songs of Rohan that still remember the north. Frumgar, they say, was the name of the chieftain who led his people to Eotheod. Of his son Fram, they tell that he slew Scatha, the great dragon of Ered Mithrin, and the land had peace from the long worms afterwards. Thus Fram won great wealth, but was at feud with the dwarves who claimed the hoard of Scatha. Fram would not yield them a penny, and sent to them instead the teeth of Scatha, made into a necklace, saying, "Jewels such as these you will not match in your treasuries, for they are hard to come by." Some say that the dwarves slew Fram for this insult. there was no great love between Eotheod and the dwarves. Clearly, the people are having online problems with who gets to get the dragon's plunders after the dragonborn killed them off, eh? Leod was the name of Earl's father. He was a tamer of wild horses. For there were many at that time in the land. He captured a white fowl, and it grew quickly to a horse, strong and fair and proud. No man could tame it. When Leod dared to mount it, it bore him away and at last threw him, and Leod's head struck a rock, and so he died. He was then only 42 years old, so 42, and his son a youth of 16. Earl vowed that he would avenge his father. He hunted long for the horse, and at last he caught sight of him, and his companions expected that he would try to come within bowshot and kill him. But when they drew near, Earl stood up and called him in a loud voice, "Come hither, man's bane, and get a new name." To their wonder, the horse looked towards Earl and came and stood before him, and Earl said, "Fairer off I name you. You loved your freedom, and I do not blame you for that. But now you owe me a great were-guild, and you shall surrender your freedom to me until your life's end." Then Earl mounted him, and Faireoff submitted, and Earl rode him home without bit or bridle, and he rode him in like fashion ever after. Talk about negotiation. The horse understood all that men said, though he would allow no man but Earl to mount him. Mutual agreement of some kind. It was upon Faireoff that Earl rode to the field of Carabrant, for that horse proved as long-lived as men. And so were his descendants. These were the Miras, who would bear no one but the king of the Mark, or his sons, until the time of Shadowfax. That's the horse that Gandalf rode, the lord of all horses. Men said to them that Bhima, whom the Eldar called Orome, must have brought their sire from west over sea. Of the kings of the Mark between Earl and Theoden, most is said of Helm Hammerhand. Here we go. He was a grim man of great strength. There was at that time a man named Freka, who claimed descent from King Freawain, though he had, men said, much Dunlandish blood and was dark-haired. He grew rich and powerful, having wide lands on either side of the Adorn. Hold on a minute. I'm going to share this with another friend, see if he can get involved in this. Okay, this might not work, but hey-o, it's worth a try. Anyway, on with the... we have our first guest, everybody. After discussing checking in, beautiful narration. Thank you very much. You're not the first person to notify my sense of narration. It's the theatrical voice, isn't it? Right, you're in good timing, Double A. I'm making use of that thumbnail that you gave me. Thank you very much. And I'm also reading the appendix so that my fans can, including yourself, can get a better idea on what the upcoming War of the Rohirrim film will entail. So I'll start again from this part here because it mentions Helm Hammerhand where the film begins. Of the kings of the Mark between Earl and Theoden, most is said of Helm Hammerhand. He was a grim man of great strength. There was at that time a man named Freka who claimed descent from King Freawain, though he had men said, much Dunlandish blood and was dark-haired. The hype for Rohirrim is building. Indeed. He grew rich and powerful, having wide lands on either side of the Adorn. Near its source, he made himself a stronghold. We know Sauron won't be going to see. Saruman will refuse to see the movie. He thinks the House of Rohan is but a sketch, a thatched barn that stinks of horse. Where only the dogs are gonna go in and pee. Yes. Yeah, well said, Double. Well said. He's probably gonna just hang out with the Wicker Man instead or something. Let's see, where was I? Near its source, he made himself a stronghold and paid little heed to the king. Helm mistrusted him, but called him to his councils, and he came when it pleased him. To one of these councils, Freka rode with many men and asked the hand of Helm's daughter for his son Wolf. But Helm said, "You have grown big since you were last here, but it is mostly fat, I guess." And men laughed at that, for Freka was wide in the belt, as I could have preferred Gondorian soldiers. Understandable how, though I lean towards the Rohirrim, they're the underdogs of men. Yeah, Rohan has always been the underdogs. I guess that's part of the appeal of the movie. And their appeal in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I suppose. Anyway, all right, so we finally get to the part where that overtly mentions the event of the film. All right, so basically, men are laughing because Helm Hammerhand made fun of him being fat. Right, then Freka fell in a rage and reviled the king and said this at the last: "Old kings that refuse a Broford's staff may fall to their knees." Helm answered, "Come, the marriage of your son is a trifle. Let Helm and Freka deal with it later. Meanwhile, the king and his council have matters of moment to count." Also, Rohan the best horn. Oh, absolutely. They named the horn the horn of Hammerhand. All right, so the marriage of your son is trifled. Let Helm and Freka deal with it later. Meanwhile, the king and his council have matters to consider. Have matters of moment to consider. Sorry for screwing up these lines. When the council was over, Helm stood up and laid his great hands on Freka's shoulders, saying, "The king does not permit brawls in this house, but men are freer outside." And he forced Freka to walk before him out from Edoras into the field. To Freka's men that came up, he said, "Be off! We need no hearers. We are going to speak of a private matter alone. Go and talk to my men." And they looked and saw that the king's men and his friends far outnumbered them, and they drew back. Legolas, "What do your elf eyes see?" "They're taking the hobbits to Isengard!" "Now, Dunlending," said the king, "you have only Helm to deal with, alone and unarmed. But you have said much already, and it is my turn to speak. Freka, your folly has grown with your belly. You talk to a staff. If Helm dislikes a crooked staff that is thrust on him, he breaks it. So." With that, he smote Freka such a blow with his fist that he fell back stunned and died soon after. Helm then proclaimed Freka's son and near kin the king's enemies, and they fled, for at once Helm sent many men riding to the west marches. 4 years later, in the year 2758 in Middle-earth terms, great troubles came to Rohan, and no help could be sent from Gondor. For where was Gondor when the Westfold fell? For 3 fleets of the Corsairs. What part? I made a short making a joke of that. I called it One Punch Hammerhand, and I just put the theme song of One Punch Man in there. I was just thinking, I don't think I see many other people taking advantage of this. I'll do it. It is a collaboration between Tolkien and anime, after all. I'm going to watch Batman Returns to get me in the Christmas spirit. You know what other Batman stories are set during Christmas time? One of the first episodes of Batman the Animated Series, called Christmas with the Joker, as well as Batman Arkham Origins. I should live stream Batman Arkham Origins, come to think of it. I suppose, speaking of Warner Brothers owned properties. Okay, 4 years later, okay. For 3 fleets of the Corsairs fought, attacked it, and there was war on all its coasts. At the same time, Rohan was again invaded from the east, and the Dunlendings, seeing their chance, came over the Eisen and down from Isengard. It was soon known that Wolf was their leader. I've heard great things about Christmas with the Joker. Oh, absolutely. I think that was the episode that kickstarted the trend. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. That series has redefined a lot of things in our culture, more so than you think. Let's see. I think it was the debut of Mark Hamill's Joker, come to think of it. Let's see. Dunlending, seeing their chance, came over the Eisen and down from Isengard. It was soon known that Wolf was their leader. They were in great force, for they were joined by enemies of Gondor that landed in the mouths of Lefnui and Eisen. The Rohirrim were defeated, and their land was overrun, and those who were not slain or enslaved fled to the dales of the mountains. Helm was driven back with great loss from the crossings of Eisen and took refuge in the Hornburg and the ravine behind, which was after known as Helm's Deep. So this is the origin of Helm's Deep. So that's why they travel all that distance. It's linked with Rohan. Right. Are you going to see opening day? I have no idea, Double A. As far as I've been able to research, despite there being a poster at View Cinema in Inverness, it doesn't look like there's going to be any screenings of the film here at Inverness. So I think me and my family are going to have to travel abroad. So maybe Glasgow, Edinburgh, London. I don't know. We've yet to make arrangements, but we'll wait and see. We intend to see it in cinemas. Let's see. There he was besieged. Wolf took Eddard. Oh yeah, we saw Helm's Deep in the trailers. Of course, that's right. Yes. Let's see. Where were we? Damn, what kind of cinemas have they got up there? Bloody Scottish. Bloody Scottish. Let's see. That was overrun. They were besieged. Oh yes. There he was besieged. Wolf took Eras and sat in Mudeseld and called himself king. There Haleth Helm's son fell. Last of all, defending the doors. How history repeats itself. Soon afterwards, the long winter began. Winter is coming. Did George R. R. Martin take inspiration from this? And Rohan lay under snow for nearly 5 months. What a Chad. November to March, year 2758 to 9. You should do more reads from Lord of the Rings. Oh, I'd be glad to. I was actually reading the poem of Durin during my live stream of Return to Moria. So there is that. I could just read the entire. I should do more Tolkien reads. That would be great. That would be fun. Both the Rohirrim and their foes suffered grievously in the cold and in the dearth that lasted longer. Note number 1. It flows into Eisen from the west of Ered Nimres. In Helm's Deep, let's see, am I on the right page? Yes, I am. In Helm's Deep, there was a great hunger after Yule, and being in despair against the king's counsel, Hama, his younger son, led men out on a sortie and foray, but they were lost in the snow. Helm grew fierce and gaunt for famine and grief. Blunt the knives, bend the forks, smash the bottles and burn the cooks. I wouldn't be surprised if Martin ripped off Tolkien with the long winter. Yeah, that would be very interesting, wouldn't it? Helm probably would have blunted a few knives with that fist of his. Helm grew fierce and gaunt for famine and grief, and the dread of him alone was worth many men in the defense of the burg. He would go out by himself, clad in white, and stalk like a snow troll into the camps of his enemies, and slay many men with his hands. What a chat! Taking them off out with his bare hands. Clearly, he's had upgraded stealth and melee combat by Skyrim standards. Let's see. It was believed that if he bore no weapons, no weapon would bite on him. The Dunlending said that if he could find no food, he ate men. Oh my, it was said. That tale lasted long in Dunland. Helm had, here we go, everybody. Helm had a great horn, and soon it was marked that before he sallied forth, he would blow a blast upon it that echoed in the deep. And then so great a fear fell on his enemies that instead of gathering to take him or kill him, they fled away down the Coombe. The Coombe, C-O-O-M-B. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, right? First time I said that word. One night, men heard the horn blowing, but Helm did not return. In the morning, there came a sun gleam, the first for long days, and they saw a white figure standing still on the dike, alone, for none of the Dunlendings dared come near. There stood Helm, dead as a stone, but his knees were unbent. Yet men said that the horn was still unheard at times in the deep, and the wraith of Helm would walk among the foes of Rohan and kill men with fear. Soon after the winter broke, then, Freylaf, son of Hild, Helm's sister, came down out of Dunharrow, to which many had fled, and with a small company of desperate men, he surprised Wulf and Medolseld and slew him, and regained Edoras. There were great floods after the snows, and the Vale of Entwash became a vast fen. The eastern invaders perished or withdrew, and there came help at last from Gondor by the roads both east and west of the mountains. There was Gondor. Before the year 2759 had ended, or was ended according to the book more precisely, the Dunlendings were driven out even from Isengard, and then Freylaf became king. Helm was brought from the Hornburg and laid in the 9th mound. Ever after the White Cymbeline, I'll pronounce that word again, the White Cymbeline grew there most thickly, so that the mound seemed to be snow-clad. When Freylaf died, a new line of mounds was begun. The Rohirrim were grievously reduced by war and death, and loss of cattle and horses. Man, you can't have Rohan without the horses, man. No wonder they were dismayed. And it was well that no great danger threatened them again for many years, for it was not until the time of King Folkwine that they recovered their former strength. It was at the crowning of Freylaf that Saruman appeared, like we saw in the Japanese trailer, bringing gifts and speaking great praise of the valor of the Rohirrim. All thought him a welcome guest. Soon after he took up his abode in Isengard. For this, Beren, steward of Gondor, gave him leave, for Gondor still claimed Isengard as a fortress of its realm, not part of Rohan. Beren also gave into Saruman's keeping the keys of Orthanc. You may remember Saruman mentioned the keys of Orthanc in that one seen the extended edition of Return of the King. That tower, no enemy has been able to harm or to enter, although Saruman would get enemies from the inside out in the Return of the King movie. Talk about fallen angels. In this way, Saruman began to behave as a lord of men, for at first he held Isengard as a lieutenant of the steward and warden of the tower. But Freylaf was as glad as Beren to have this so, and to know that Isengard was in the hands of a strong friend, a friend he'd long seemed, and maybe in the beginning, he was one in truth. Though afterwards, there was little doubt in men's minds that Saruman went to Isengard in hope to find the stones still there, and with the purpose of building up a power of his own. Certainly, after the last White Council in the year 2953, his designs towards Rohan, though he hid them, were evil. He then took Isengard for his own, and began to make it a place of guarded strength and fear, as though to rival the Barad-dûr. His friends and servants he drew then from all who hated Gondor and Rohan, whether men or other creatures more evil. It then says here, the kings of the Mark. First line, year 2485 to 2545. Earl the Young. He was so named because he succeeded his father in youth and remained yellow-haired and ruddy at the end of his days. These were shortened by a renewed attack of the Easterlings. Earl fell in battle in the wold, and the first mount was raised. Felarof was laid there also. 2512 to 70. Brego. He drove the enemy out of the wold, and Rohan was not attacked again for many years. In 2569, he completed the great hall of Meduseld. At the feast, his son Baldur vowed that he would tread the paths of the dead and did not return. Brego died of grief the next year. 2044 to 2645, Aldor the Old. He was Brego's second son. He became known as the Old since he lived at a great age and was king for 75 years. In his time, the Rohirrim increased and drove out or subdued the last of the Dunlendish people that lingered east of Isen. Harrowdale and other mountain valleys were settled. Of the next three kings, little is said, for Rohan had peace and prospered for their time, so they increased. Man, people repopulating must have had a lot of fun, eh? 2572, 2659. Freya, eldest son, but fourth child of Aldor. He was already old when he became king. 2594 to 2680. Freyawain, 2619 to 99. Goldwine, 2644 to 2718. Deor. In his time, the Dunlendings raised often over the Isen. In 2710, they occupied the deserted ring of Isengard and could not be dislodged. 2666 to 2741. Gram, 2691 to 2759. Helm Hammerhand. At the end of his reign, Rohan suffered great loss by invasion and the long winter. Helm and his sons, Haleth and Hama, perished. Frialaf, Helm's sister's son, became king. The dates are given according to the reckoning of Gondor in the Third Age. Those in the margin are of birth and death. Okay. So, let's see. This is 2726 to 2798. Frialaf Hildeson, in this time, this is the second line now, in his time Saruman came to Isengard, from which the Dunlendings had been driven. The Rohirrim at first profited by his friendship in the days of death and weakness that followed. Then came Breta. He was called by his people Leofa, for he was loved by all. He was open-handed and a help for all the needy. In his time, there was war with orcs that, driven from the north, sought refuges in the White Mountains. When he died, it was thought that he had all been hunted out, but it was not so. Then came Walda. He was king for only 9 years. He was slain with all his companions when they were trapped by orcs as they rode by mountain paths from Dunharrow. What a time to king. Folka. Funny to hear people be called Falco. Folka was a great hunter, and he vowed to chase no wild beast while there was an orc left in Rohan. When the last orc hold was found and destroyed, he went to hunt the great boar of Everholt in the Fyrin Wood. He slew the boar, but died of the tusk wounds that it gave him. Then came Folkwein. When he became king of Rohirrim, the Rohirrim had recovered their strength. He reconquered the West March between Adorn and Isen that Dunlendings had occupied. Rohan would receive great help from Gondor in the evil days. When therefore he heard that the Haradrim were assailing Gondor with great strength, he sent many men to the help of the steward. He wished to lead them himself, but was dissuaded, and his twin sons Folkred and Fastid, born 2858, went in his stead. They fell side by side in battle in Aethelion, 2885. Turin II of Gondor sent to Folkwyne to a rich wergild of gold. Then came Thengel, his third son. Then came Thengel. Then came in the year 2048 to 3019, Theoden. He is called Theoden Adnu in the lore of Rohan, for he fell into a decline under the spells of Saruman, but was healed by Gandalf. And in the last year of his life arose and led his men to victory at the Hornburg, and soon after to the fields of Pelennor, the greatest battle of the age. He fell before the gates of Mundburg. For a while he rested in the land of his birth, among the dead kings of Gondor, but was brought back and laid in the 8th mound of his line at Edoras. Then a new line had begun, the 3rd line. Theoden married Aemond of Eastfold, the chief marshal of the Mark. Her son, Aemir, was born in 2991, and her daughter, Eowyn, in 2995. At that time, Sauron had risen again, and the shadow of Mordor reached out to Rohan. Orcs began to raid the eastern regions and slay or steal horses. Hey, you can't mess with the horses of Rohan. Others also came down from the Misty Mountains, many being great Uruks in the service of Saruman, though it was long before he was suspected. Aemond's chief charge lay in the east marches, and he was a great lover of horses and haters of orcs. If news came of a raid, he would often ride against them in hot anger, unwarily and with few men. Thus it came about that he was slain in 3002, for he pursued a small band of the borders of the Emin Mule, and was there surprised by a strong force that lay in wait in the rocks. Not long after, Theoden took sick and died of the great grief of the king. Her children he took into his house, calling them son and daughter. He had only one child of his own, Theodred, his son, and then 24 years old, for the Queen Elfhild had died in childbirth, and Theoden did not wed again. Aemir and Eowyn grew up at Edoras and saw the dark shadow fall on the hall of Theoden. Aemir was like his fathers before him, but Eowyn was slender and tall, with a grace and pride that came to her out of the south, from Morwen of Losanach. Losanach. Pretty sure it's Nach, right? Whom the Rohirrim had called Steel Sheen. Then, so Aemir Edig, when he's still young, he became a marshal of the Mark, and was given his father's charge in the east marches in the War of the Ring. Theodred fell in battle with Saruman at the crossings of Isen. Therefore, before he died on the fields of Pelennor, Theoden named Aemir his heir and called him king. And that day Eowyn also won renown, for she fought in that battle, riding in disguise, and was known after in the Mark as Lady of the Shield Arm. For her, I wouldn't be surprised. Oh wait, I already read that comment. Sorry, never mind. For her shield arm was broken by the mace of the Witch King, but he was brought to nothing, and thus the words of Glorfindel long before to King Eärnur were fulfilled, that the Witch King would not fall by the hand of man. For it is said in the songs of the Mark that in this deed Eowyn had the aid of Theoden's esquire, that would be Merry, and that he also was not a man, but a halfling out of a far country, though Emir gave him honor in the Mark and the name of Holdwyn. This Holdwyn was none other than Meriadoc the Magnificent, who was master of Buckland. Yeah, hobbits! Eomer became a great king, And being young when he succeeded Theoden, he reigned for 65 years, longer than all their kings before him, save Aldor the Old. In the War of the Ring, he made the friendship of King Elessar and of Imrahil of Dol Amroth, and he rode off to Gondor. In the last year of the Third Age, he wedded Lotheria, yes, daughter of Imrahil. Their son, Elfwine the Fair, ruled after him. In Ermir's day, in the Mark, men had peace who wished for it, and the people increased both in the dales and the plains, and their horses multiplied. In Gondor, the king Elessar now ruled, and in Arnor also. In all the lands of those realms of old he was king, save in Rohan only. For he renewed to Emir the gift of Kirion, and Ymir took again the oath of Earl. Often he fulfilled it, for though Sauron had passed, the hatred and evils that he bred had not died. And the kings of the West had many enemies to subdue before the white tree would grow in peace. And wherever King Elessar went with war, King Ymir went with him. And beyond the Sea of Rhun and on the far fields of the south, the thunder of the cavalry of the Mark was heard. And the white horse upon green flew in many winds until Eomer grew old. That concludes the Appendices accounts of the history of Rohan. So now we have a better grasp of not only the history of Rohan, but also the story in which the War of the Rohirrim is specifically going to depict. So obviously they're going to adapt the same story, but take creative liberties with it. Already from the promotion of the trailer, there's going to be a lot more emphasis on Helm Hammerhand's daughter, who, as if you were paying attention, didn't even get a name in the appendices. So she's been called Hera. It makes sense to give her a name like that, beginning with an H, because Helm's other sons also had names beginning with an H. So that's thematically appropriate. And people are saying, oh, this is so typical, woke typical. This could be a final battle between Wolf and Hera. It's going to be cheap girl boss moment. No. They're going to adapt the story. And in the story, it clearly says here that Wolf died in the hands of Helm Hammerhand. And Helm Hammerhand is a Giga Chad who survived through the winter. They're going to place a lot more emphasis on Hera, the daughter of Helm, for creative liberties. I predict that they are going to use what is described here in the Appendice and use it as a backbone for some of the other creative elements to put in there. I have a link to the official website for you guys to read. So if you're willing to read along with me and scroll to the bottom, I think I found the bottom. If you've ever seen the extended edition of Two Towers, you'll get that joke. Anyway, it says here in the description, New Line Cinema's original anime feature. That's a new start for New Line Cinema, I think. The Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim, returns audiences to the epic world brought to life in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, based on the revered books by J.R.R. Tolkien, and not made by the idiots in Amazon Prime. The team that is doing the film is more competent than Rings of Power. Yeah, I just said that. Kudos to that, man. Under the direction of award-winning filmmaker Kenji Kamiyama, whose previous works have been like Blade Runner, Black Lotus, so this is not his first time adapting a Western property by Eastern means. And didn't Shinichiro Watanabe get involved with that too? The creator of Cowboy Bebop. Anyway, and Ghost in the Shell standalone complex TV series. The talented voice cast, for the English dub at least, will be Brian Cox as Helm Hammerhand, Gaia Wise from Walk in the Woods as his daughter Hera, and Luke Pascolino as Wolf. It says here he was in Snowpiercer, but I know Luke from the Musketeer show on BBC. Anyone else remember that show? I've got fun memories of that. He even had Peter Capaldi as a priest character and a really conniving villain played by another actor in season 2. It was a great show. Miranda Otto, who delivered an unforgettable award-winning performance in Lord of the Rings trilogy, reprises her role as Eowyn Shieldmaiden of Rohan, who serves as the tale's narrator, passing on the story naturally. The voice ensemble also includes Lorraine Ashburn from, oh boy, Bridgerton, Yazdan Quafori, Benjamin Wainwright, Lawrence Ubong Williams, Sean Dooley, Michael Wildman, Jude Akuwadikik, Bilal Hasna, and Janine Duvitsky. Something that the description hasn't mentioned, something that surprised me when I found out. Apparently for Saruman, they're going to use archival voice recordings from Christopher Lee himself. Yeah, that surprised me. You can even find it on the IMDb page. I thought they were going to bring in some Christopher Lee impersonator like Corey Burton or something, but no, apparently they've got archival footage from his recordings in The Hobbit or something. So that'll be interesting to see what creativity they can do here. I mean, it would have been easy to just have him say nothing at all and have Eowyn narrate the rest or something. But anyway, it says here, set 183 years before the events chronicled in the original trilogy of films, the Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim tells the tale of the House of Helm Hammerhand, the legendary king of Rohan, a sudden attack by Wolf, a clever and ruthless Dunlending lord, seeking vengeance for the death of his father, forces Helm and his people to make a daring last stand in the ancient stronghold of the Hornburg, a mighty fortress that will later come to be known as Helm's Deep. Okay, so there is going to be some member berries. There's going to be some member berries, but given the source material, it's member berries that make sense because it's a historical narrative in the context of Middle-earth. Finding herself in an increasingly desperate situation, Hera, the daughter of Helm, must summon the will to lead the resistance against a deadly enemy intent on their total destruction. Okay, so here's where the creative liberties comes in. Again, there was no mention of Hera. Her name wasn't even mentioned, but her role was that she was meant to be married to Wolf, but due to disagreements between Helm and that other guy, what was the guy's name again? Okay, let me see. Freka. Yeah, Freka. Due to disagreements between Helm and Freka, the marriage between Wolf and Hera never really went through. So I guess we'll see how this goes. It says here, with Kamiyama at the helm, the original feature is being produced by an Oscar Award winner Philippa Boyens from the screenwriting team behind Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogy. So we're in good hands. I mean, I know they didn't quite strike lightning twice with the Hobbit trilogy, but I actually like the Hobbit trilogy despite its flaws. Alongside Jason DeMarco and Joseph Chow, who, in addition to their many separate animation projects, collaborated on the Blade Runner Black Lotus series, which a lot of people really liked. The executive producers are Fran Walsh, Peter Jackson, Sam Register. What is Sam Register? Wow, that is quite the surname. His surname is literally Register. There you go. Caroline Blackwood and Toby Emmerich. The screenplay is by Jeffrey Addis and Will Matthews and Phoebe Gettins and R.T. Papagiorgio. Story by Addis and Matthews and Boyens, based on the characters by J.R.R. Tolkien. The team of creative collaborators returning from the Lord of the Rings trilogy also includes Oscar Award winners Alan Lee, woo, and Richard Taylor, along with esteemed Tolkien illustrator John Howe. Yep. Alan Lee, the illustrated by Alan Lee, the guy who illustrated this book. I have Alan Lee's illustrated version. This is the superior way to read The Lord of the Rings, if you ask me. A New Line cinema representation, Warner Brothers Animation and Solo Entertainment production. The Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim will be distributed theatrically worldwide by Warner Brothers Pictures, released in cinemas worldwide on cinemas nationwide. It says nationwide on December 13th and internationally beginning 11th of December. Huh, funny. I was reading somewhere that the subversion in Japan doesn't get released until the 27th. So maybe I was wrong. Maybe I found an unreliable source, I guess. But yeah, now that we've read the actual story, we can say for certain that this is an epic tale of the history of the horse people, an intended marriage, only for that to go wrong because of the disagreement between this one fat jerk and this really tough guy. And then 4 years later, the son of said fat guy whom tough guy kills comes to invade, and people are under attack, so they take their stand in Helm's Deep. Meanwhile, the tough guy Giga Chad manages to survive the winter and becomes as monstrous as the trolls. And eventually, Helm gets the better of Wolf. And that's what it says here. So they're going to faithfully adapt the story whilst taking creative liberties. Because, I mean, it makes sense to adapt it in this way in regards to, since I've actually read it, because it's an appendice, and this is basically notes for world building. So there's enough detail for the world building, but by itself, it, I guess you could say it leaves enough space for creative liberties, like more emphasis on certain other characters, like certain characters are going to be shown, not just Hera, mind you, but also the other family members, a bit more emphasis on them. So I think that's how it's going to go down. The main fear and concern about War of the Rohirrim is basically the presentation of Hera herself, because people are scared. Oh no, it's going to be another woke girl boss. It's going to be another woke girl boss. Oh no, oh no. I'm getting the sense that this may be a case of the boy who cried woke in this case, because it may very well be that the film is actually great, but these fears only exist to drag the film down, because these kind of rumors I've seen were spread by this one YouTuber who was afraid that, oh, Zelda's the main protagonist of Echoes of Wisdom, therefore the game is woke. Even though I've heard no complaints since the game's release that the game itself is woke. Like, seriously, who among us or anyone out there has been complaining that Echoes of Wisdom is woke nowadays? Anyone? No? So what are you complaining about? Again, authenticity goes both ways. I know you're afraid of poorly written girl boss characters. I get it. Poorly written girl boss characters are terrible because there's this narcissism and there's this lack of accountability and all these double standards, especially with the Woman King, which tries to glorify this tribe to say, yeah, we're anti-slave trade, even though the Agoji tribe actually overtly supported the slave trade. Shh! No, we can't let them know that. That goes against our agenda! So yeah, I get it. I completely understand. But on the other hand, you'll have people who are on the opposite end of the spectrum who are way too overly suspicious about products that are otherwise good. Because, I mean, I understand that. I even see it with the way that that there's a difference between the West is marketing this movie and how the East is marketing the movie. I've noticed that when the West markets this movie, there's a lot more emphasis on Hera as the cool girl boss character, because that's pandering to the political agenda towards the people who are easily offended by anything and everything, as well as that whole notion of if you try to appeal to everybody, then you appeal to nobody, so on and so forth. On the other hand, I've noticed that Eastern marketing with like Japan and the Philippines, they actually have a more balanced approach with their marketing. They show Hera doing the girl boss stuff, but they also show Helm Hammerhand doing this Giga Chat stuff, and even having the two of them hug and embrace, as well as having more world building implications, hence the Japanese respect and honor for storytelling. What do you guys think of the upcoming movie? I'd be keen to hear what you have to say. The Holy Ninja says, I think Hela's arc is to accept responsibility by taking over leadership of the siege of the Hornburg after Helm died. The biggest change will be Frealeaf killing Wolf at the Hornburg instead of Edoras. Okay. Yeah. It probably won't be Hera who kills off Wolf. I think that's just part of the marketing for people who don't know about the story. But we've taken the time to read the story now, so we know how the story goes. And we know that given Peter Jackson's reputation, he and his team are going to adapt the story in a way that's faithful, but also taking enough creative liberties for the film to work for a cinematic on-screen presentation rather than a literary one. Because again, there's some things that work better in literature and some other things that work better in film. Right. Interesting speculation. I mean, at the end of the day, this whole video is just speculation. This film could be a pile of excrement. This film could be really good. I don't know. All I'm saying is, don't throw the baby out of the bathwater. Just wait and see, okay? Wait and see. This is a good apple, by the way. Hera's probably going to duel Wolf to distract him from taking over the Hornburg. Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. That actually does make sense. I can imagine Hera. I have heard from the people making the film that they took inspiration from Nausicaa, from Hayao Miyazaki's movie Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind. If you're familiar with that film, then that kind of depiction makes a lot of sense because Nausicaa is a sort of military leader. She is from a royal lineage. So, yeah, I can see why you're excited for the film. Now, people might say, oh, but she's an openly girl boss. Rohan would not allow people to be openly girl boss. Hang on a minute. If Rohan did not allow women to fight at all, then why was Eowyn allowed to do some sword fighting practice in the Two Towers? Pay attention. I'm just saying. Just don't go for any extreme. Just be balanced in your perspective, okay? I'm honestly excited for the film as well. I mean, Tolkien and anime. That is a nerd's dream come true. This is a really good apple. Kind of admit something. I'm not very fond of the kind of apples that kind of have a squeak to them. I much prefer apples that are like soft but still very juicy. This is that kind of apple. The rest of the life is just going to be me eating the apple, isn't it? I'm going to have to head off very soon. Do any of you have anything else to say about War of the Rohirrim? Chances are, me and my family are probably going to go see the film abroad, probably Glasgow or in Edinburgh or something like that. So I guess I'll see you there if possible. I'll need to make plans, mind you. Ginger infused tea. Good for the overall system. Right, I'm gonna have to head off now. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all for listening to me read the Appendice. So now we know more of what we're actually getting ourselves into, and we're making our speculations as to how the film's going to adapt the story. I think there's unanimous agreement that by default it's going to be better than Rings of Power, simply because there's actual passion put into it. Are you buying the Hammer popcorn bucket? They have a Hammer popcorn bucket. They actually have that? Man, people are saying that, oh no, War of the Rohirrim has very poor marketing. If it has very poor marketing, how do you explain the Hammerhand popcorn bucket? Hammerhand popcorn bucket. Okay, I'm gonna have to find this. What on earth is that? What is that? Okay. I could be mistaken in what on earth I am seeing right now, but if you click on this link here, it's what on earth is that? That is an actual hammer, where the hammer itself has a lid with the popcorn in it. I am not making this up. This is an actual thing. Like, my days. Get some popcorn to the face. What's next? Like a fist of popcorn? Is that where we're going? Is that what it is now? Are you gonna have an Oliphant popcorn now? Wow. Just wow. I suppose there's a good place to end it off. A literal hammer of popcorn. It's a hammer. It's like a bucket of popcorn with the shape of a hammer head, and it has the handle of an actual hammer. So it was basically a hammer with popcorn in it. Wow. All right. I guess if you liked my narration of War of the Rohirrim, I suppose spread this live stream around so that more people can be informed about the actual Appendice itself. I mean, there's no point sharing this with Malika and some other diehard Tolkien fans, because they already know this, but maybe some other Tolkien fans or people have yet to get familiarized with the books who don't know about this. So spread it around to your friends and spread one around. We need a balanced perspective on War of the Rohirrim, and if this movie is actually good, we need to make this film succeed, because we need animation to be taken seriously as a work of art, as well as maintain the dignity of Tolkien. All right. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Spread the word around. Spread the love about. Holy Trinity loves you all, and I love you too. Thank you all so much for watching. Stick around. I'll probably do an extensive video on theological symbolism in Daredevil, as well as talking about Trigun Stampede. Maybe do a few other gaming live streams and stuff like that. So, in the meantime, Scott Stinker signing out. Cheerio and Daraste. Or Animarie, as they say in Middle Earth.